This is the last panel of the day on cybersecurity. Very, very fun topic. I think we'll leave it at that. Let Patrick, your moderator, take it from here. Feel free to ask them as many questions as you can. It's a very important topic. And then we'll see you all at the apéro right after. Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the welcome and also for the interest for this topic. I know security is always interesting and important and critical. So we at Crypto Valley Cybersecurity Working Group are dealing with these topics on a regular basis. We always have discussions, presentations, workaround. So Cybersecurity Working Group, which is led by Markus and me, we always bring in new speakers, new topics. And I want to bring you today an interesting topic about custody, NFT, bug bounty, and chain security and smart contracts. So I think I will let the people introduce themselves, and I will give the floor to the first one, Thomas.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Thomas Weigold. Maybe you can switch the slide. Oh, there you can actually operate. All right. I'm the product owner for custody at Bitcoin Swiss. So I'm sort of responsible for the custody systems and solutions that we use there. And I want to give you some food for thought for the case you intend to install some of the custody solutions on the market and become a custodian and take care of private keys for your funds or your clients' funds. Maybe let's go to the next slide. So we at Bitcoin Swiss, we have been building our own custody system since 2017. And at the time we did it because there was not so much on the market, for sure in the institutional grade custody arena. And so we did it more out of necessity. But in the meantime, I would say in the last cycle, there have been many companies emerging and growing that are really focusing on building custody technology and acting as a technology provider. And you can, if you want to use them, I want to give you some considerations that might help you in getting started using such systems. In general, here on the slide, you can see the fundamental goals, of course, keeping private keys safe and also making sure they are not misused, but still available for signing transactions. Most of the custody systems are built out of the three basic blocks. One is the private key management part. That's all about storing, creating private keys, using them for signing, but also backup is an important part. Then another important block is the governance system that controls, all the users and roles and approval flows that you need for creating and approving and then finally signing transactions. And finally, there's sort of the front end with the UI and integration systems like APIs and also the sort of the connection to the blockchain node infrastructure and also possibly to exchanges and other partners. So I created a slide that just has a bunch of keywords that you might consider if you want to evaluate such systems and make some decisions of how to install them and what are the decision points. I grouped it in five subsections, so to say, starting with functionality at the top. And then I think from top to bottom, the questions or the considerations there are actually getting harder and harder. And I think many people don't go all the way to the bottom, but sort of stop halfway when the questions become tricky. I think the first two chapters there, which is functionality and cost or pricing, are sort of the obvious questions, right? So you look at the system and you ask yourself, does it fulfill my needs? Does it support all the chains, all the functionality? Does it support staking, DeFi, or whatever you need? And then also you look at the pricing. But For most of these questions, the answers are relatively easy, I would say, or relatively clear. But then when it comes to the deployment model, it's getting more tricky, and it's also getting into lots of security and risk management questions. So as you saw the building blocks on the last slide, so for instance, it's a big question of where are these parts of the system running? Do you want to, for security reasons, maybe run some of them in-house, on-prem? Do you want to consume them as a cloud service? What does it mean for the security of the system and for the risk management? So that's where it's getting tricky. And then the really hard questions is what I hear called trust model and risk management, because you have to be aware that you're using a technology stack from a third party. So there's additional risks that you cannot really fully circumvent. You use software and hardware from a third party to manage keys and manage also the governance framework. And there's always a potential risk, right? And finally, also the backup and disaster recovery case is also something which is oftentimes neglected and not really thought through. Are we running out of time?
Yes.
All right. So just these are the things that, or especially the two last points that I wanted to highlight. Everyone should spend time on that to really figure out what are the requirements.
So, thank you. Are there any current questions from the auditorium? I would like to quickly ask one. When you go into this area and you have a long time experience, several years, what would you recommend a company if they want to get into this area? What are the major steps or suggestions?
Of course, question is what background you have as a company, what skills you have in-house. Of course, the solution providers are going to help you a lot, not just with selling their products, but also with helping you defining the right procedures for key ceremonies, for audits and all of that. But again, as I mentioned before, you also have to make sure that you sort of protect yourself against the solution provider. And so it's good to have your own sort of third-party help or skills, right? So if you don't have it in-house, I think it's a good idea to talk to the audit companies like PwC. They can help a lot because they have deployed these systems in the past, in most cases. So they can give you recommendations, and you probably need them anyway, because if you want to do a serious deployment, then you want to also have them as an auditor, on a regular basis.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
Just a quick question. I think your framework, as far as I understood, is focused on key management. But I guess you also, your overall risk management framework, you cover also the people dimension, which is a major source of risk, in particular than security by design. So proper design coding rules and everything related to the development of your solutions.
Right, yeah. So this is mainly the technical view, and some of what you mentioned is also a part here under the section of trust model and risk management. So yes, it is really covering the whole technology stack that you sort of use from a third party, what you can do to evaluate it and make decisions on which part of the system you trust, which part of the systems you actually want externally reviewed, source code reviews, third-party audits and things like that. That's important. But maybe what I didn't mention so much is the people view and the sort of separation of controls. And that's more about the governance system and how you map it to your own organization then at the end of the day, because you have to have these different roles in your company. And but that's also something where you can get a lot of help from the audit companies.
Okay. Hope that's okay. We are just a reminder, after this session, we are outside in the networking apéro party, so whenever you have any other questions, we are still reachable, and we are also reachable via Crypto Valley Association platform. Thank you for the first presentation. I would jump to the next one. That's with Evgenia and bug bounty, and I would say,
thank you.
Feel free.
Hi everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here today. And in the continuity of the previous topic, I would like to share about bug bounties as an additional layer of protection to everything that's been mentioned, because in crypto especially, like audits is not enough, 2 audits is not enough, and as far as security is something that we do on the continuous basis, there should be ongoing security procedures how to deal with security issues. So, and I want to cover the bug bounty topic, which is usually the additional layer of protection for the crypto companies that take care about security seriously. So what is bug bounty? Bug bounty is like kind of crowdsourced security program which unites ethical hackers and companies who want to test their solutions in terms of vulnerabilities. And in effect, it's like a vulnerability disclosure policy where it's mentioned the scope of work and the rewards that companies provide for a different type of issues. And this practice has been like accepted in many governments already. It was like VDP, and in crypto, it's growing year by year. So like it's really like short theme how it works. So a company created the scope of work with the targets. It could be like smart contracts, L1, L2, web applications, mobile applications, infrastructure, and everything like that. And the platform like unites the community of ethical hackers and the companies who do that. So researchers look for vulnerabilities, report this through platform or through emails or through any other methods, and the companies do validation, so-called triaging, and then provide bounties for their findings. So in this way, you attract more eyes to your product and kind of diversify the skill set, the tools, and approaches how to find vulnerabilities in any type of assets. So it could be done either with the like by company itself, just a landing page with the email, or it could be done through the bug bounty platforms. It could be either Web2 bug bounty platforms or Web3 native one. And if we are talking about the beneficial of like why beneficial this bug bounty, it's about that you involve so many people, and it's not your employees, it's like external researchers. It could be either like developers of the protocol, like independent developers of the protocol. It could be just users, customers, or just security researchers that have spare time or found vulnerabilities in something similar that you're already building, and just go and check what's there in your product. And by our experience running bug bounty programs for the last 6 years, in 70% of the cases, high critical issues are found during first 3 months of the program. And then when you're updating the code, you also interact with hackers actively to detect vulnerabilities. And also it's like good for ongoing security measures, because bug bounty is not just like some limited engagement like audits. It's on the constant basis you're under like eyes of hundreds or thousands researchers. I just want to share a couple of cases in crypto. For example, there's been an interesting case, I think last year, with Aurora. They paid $6 million bug bounty, but prevented the hack of $300 million for their project. Of course, it's been like very huge bounty, but still it prevents even more damage, because at the end, hack is not only about money. It's about users' trust. It's about your reputation. It's about token price, and it's a lot of factors that hacks usually influence. And another case is a Near protocol. They've been spent more than $1 million, as far as I know, by now, for bounties to prevent issues with their protocol with their huge TVLs. So bug bounty as an additional layer of protection can be good to all the security measures that mentioned before, including audits, security by design, and other measures that companies usually do. Thank you.
Okay, you can give it to. Thank you. Interesting talk. So, any questions to bug bounty? Everybody knows it. Everybody uses it. Please.
Thank you very much for speaking about bounty. I have a more broader question about how data privacy fits into the security component of the work you do. I thought it's just from a perspective of either a customer or a company that's using your services.
You mean bug bounties?
Yes, or anyone else.
I mean, like you as a regular user of the product, you have access to all this data. So mostly it's like a black box testing when you don't have any specific access to the platform. So you act like an external actor. No other data is provided.
Okay. Over there, please.
I mean, the benefit of the bug bounty that you have a lot of eyes, and if one decided to do so, there would be another one who will report the issue, and in this way you diversify. Because in the meantime, you can have a lot of cyber criminals that are doing like just this, not going through any bug bounties. That's why you have the white part of these forces to help.
Okay. Any further questions? I would say then we hand over to Jürgen.
Cool. I'll stand up if you don't mind.
I leave it up to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so talking about bug bounties, this is a perfect transition because I want to talk to you guys about a bug bounty that we actually found in a live protocol last year. So I work at a company called Chain Security, and we focus on smart contract audits, and we work together with a lot of the big DeFi protocols. And in particular, we work with Curve Finance, which is one of the biggest decentralized exchanges out there. And last year, we found a really big bug in Curve. So I'm happy to tell you guys about that. So the type of bug that we found was a read-only reentrancy bug. And to understand that, I first want to give a quick recap of what the classical reentrancy bug is. So this is one of the most well-known smart contract bugs out there. And we're going to illustrate it with this withdraw function here. So we have a withdraw function where first we read the user balance from the state. Then we send the user their full balance. And at the end, we set the balance to 0. So now if we just have a normal user, this works fine. But what's tricky is that you can also have a user that's a smart contract. Now, whenever you call a smart contract to send them their balance, they can actually also make calls. And you'll note that here we're sending them their balance before we've updated the balance in storage, right? So what the contract can do is it can re-enter into the withdraw function and call it when we're in this inconsistent state. And now what we're going to do is we're going to read the balance again, and then we're going to send the balance to the contract a second time. And then at the end, we're going to set it to 0 twice. Right, but that doesn't really help us. So now we've accidentally sent the contract its balance twice instead of just one time. So since this is one of the most well-known bugs in Ethereum, we must know of a solution, right? And there is actually one that's kind of regarded as like a catch-all solution, which is you can put reentrancy guards on all of your state-changing functions. And what a reentrancy guard does is it ensures that the same function cannot be called twice in a single call. And so then that means that the attacker won't be able to call withdraw twice, and we've solved our problem, right? But this is where we get to the read-only reentrancy. So this is the new type of bug that we found. And here in the top right, we have the reentrant contract again, which is the one we had before. So first step is going to be exactly the same. We're going to call withdraw on that contract, and then it's going to send us our balance as the attacker. But it won't update the balance in storage, right, just like before. So now what the attacker can't do is call withdraw again, right? We have the reentrance guard this time, so we're protected against that. But what they can do is they can call a third protocol or another contract, which we're going to call the victim DeFi protocol here. And we're going to assume that that victim DeFi protocol relies on the user balance values in the reentrant contract. So when we call it, then in step 4, it's going to read from the reentrant contract what the user balances are. And so what's tricky here is that usually people don't put reentrancy guards on their view functions that can be used to read the contract. But we're going to be reading an incorrect value here, right? So this isn't going to hurt the reentrant contract, but the victim DeFi protocol is going to make a calculation based on that wrong value. And then because of that, the attacker is going to be able to steal from that victim DeFi protocol. So how did this look like in the real world? So we found this bug in Curve Finance in April of last year. And because Curve is such a big protocol, there's a lot of other protocols that integrate with it and that depend on the price of Curve. And the price was the thing that was able to be manipulated very similarly to the thing that I just explained to you. So in total, there were over $100 million at risk in all of these protocols that you see on the right. But luckily, we were able to make responsible disclosures to all of them. And they were able to move all of that money out of the contracts, and none of it got lost. But if someone else who wasn't as white hat as us had found it, they could have stolen all of that money, and it would have just been gone forever. So what are the key takeaways? First of all, reentrancy guards on state-changing functions only protect your own contract. But it can still be dangerous if someone else reads your state. And so that means that you have to consider contracts not just individually, but you have to take a look at the whole system. And you also have to consider that maybe someone else is going to be using your view functions, and that they can have an issue from that, even though you're safe yourself. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Torgen. This was quite technical. So any questions? If not, I would like to quickly ask, so now when you go into this smart contract area, and so how do you check and make sure that this does not happen? What is the recommendation, the basic recommendation for this?
I mean, there's a lot of things, right? You can have your contracts audited. I mean, for this particular bug, there is actually a pretty simple solution that's not super nice, but it works, which is that before you call a view function on a contract that might have a read-only reentrancy, you can actually just call another function that has a reentrancy guard on it, and then it will revert if you are reentering, right? So you can just call that function that doesn't do anything, and then you can call your view function afterwards, and in that way you're sure that there can't be any reentrancy. And so that's kind of an ugly workaround to this specific problem. Yeah.
Okay. I think it's not that easy, but cool. I like it. Yes, please.
I'd like to hear from both of you, maybe potentially if you have experience. One of the characteristics of the open source is the amount of replication of code. So in case you are finding something in a specific solution, and then potentially there is the flow is in a source code that it was copied n times. Have you experienced this kind of replication of bugs? And how would you communicate that?
Yeah. So I mean, I just had like a bunch of protocols that kind of had the same bug on the slide, right? And we just had to reach out to all of them independently, and also hope that they don't leak it to anyone else, right? To a black hat. So it is tricky, but I think, yeah, you just have to do the responsible disclosure to everyone that is affected. Yeah, you can't really make it public because maybe the wrong person is going to see it, but it's definitely tricky.
Yeah, I think we saw the same problems also in security area when you use a software library which is vulnerable. You have the same problem. We saw the problem also in other crypto services which are public and then had a problem. And we saw recently MPC attack, which is also based on a standard function and yeah, had a flaw. So
yeah, I just want to add quickly, the same happened to us. As far as we work a lot with crypto exchanges, and they use a lot of third-party solutions. And in most cases, like this third-party solution is vulnerable. And when something like that happens, we try to contact this third-party solution first, and then notify the project that use this solution as well.
So it's an ongoing journey and an ongoing checking. Any further questions to this? Okay, then I would hand over to Markus for NFT. Please.
Thanks, Patrick and Thomas. Right, my name is Markus Perdiger, and I used to work for PwC and Bitcoin Swiss in the last 7 years, helping startups and regulated companies get off the ground with crypto in operations, regulated environments, and scalable business models. And now I'm consulting in the space and helping you guys and everybody else out there do the same. Today, we're going to speak about NFTs. And I have 5 minutes, so I'll cut it very short. But I'll bring everybody up to speed first. What is an NFT? An NFT is a unique digital identifier that cannot be copied, substituted, or subdivided. It is recorded on a blockchain, and it is usually used to certify ownership and authenticity of something that can be on-chain or can also be off-chain. And most frequently, we see NFTs used as a digital art or collectible, so that's what we're going to focus on today, but it's also used for other means, for example, in domain names, on-chain, or for liquidity pools in Uniswap. And NFTs can have a lot of value or very little value. NFTs are given away for free, for newsletters, etc. But also we've seen an NFT sold for 69 million a few years ago. And of course, liquidity pools can cover even more than this. So when we look at the security of NFTs or risk associated with NFTs, then we look at this in 5 domains, from the art through to usage, and I'm going to cycle through all of them right now. When we look at the art, of course, we have the art that can be off-chain, but we also have the smart contract that's on-chain. And we want to make sure that we understand to what extent the art that's underlying the smart contract or the NFT can actually be changed. And frequently, in not so good NFTs, people can go in and change the art because they're stored somewhere on a web server. But even for high-quality NFTs, projects can keep the path open to update the art for actually positive reasons. So understand how the art can be changed that underlies an NFT and take that in consideration. Separately, if you're a wallet provider or custodian or just a gallery in the NFT space, be aware that you need to be prepared to show any kind of art in your website or your application, and that opens up the possibility for malicious actors to put in hacking type activities, so images that hack the browser that's viewing your gallery. You need to provide a safe sandbox to do this. In the custody space, we're back to traditional crypto custody considerations, but we have a new audience in NFT where not everybody is really used to thinking in terms of crypto custody risks. So it's very important to re-emphasize here, that's the biggest takeaway today. When you start, it's fine to use a hot wallet, but as soon as you go serious in NFTs, get a cold wallet, a ledger, a Trezor, whatever else. Get a proper cold wallet to store your assets and keep all of your high-value assets in cold storage. Also, there are a lot of activities that are higher risks when you interact with smart contracts that may be less well-known, when you participate in airdrops or other activities. Don't do this on cold storage where you have all of your assets. Use a hot wallet for this where you have less assets. Smart contracts are mostly important for projects building NFT solutions. And in that space, very important to remember there are solid templates out there. You can use existing ERC 721 contracts and other templates. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. That actually helps you be on a safe side and not make the same mistakes that others have already made and fixed. And of course, remember to audit and bug bounties, etc. Then the second most important point is that NFTs are usually interacted with through websites. And of course, then the website is reaching out to the smart contract to get stuff done on the blockchain. And as a user, you need to be very mindful that you're actually interacting with the right website and you're not being tricked into interacting with a malicious website. So be on the lookout for social engineering, for phishing, where you're led to do stuff on websites that are not actually what you think they are. So something can look like an NFT marketplace, but not actually be an NFT marketplace. And as a developer of such solutions, you follow the typical Web 2 rules, OWASP security, Web 2 security measures. That's nothing different. Finally, half a second, usage is evolving. NFTs are evolving. And from a security perspective, there are many more business models in the space that don't have solid security measures. So be very careful when you do more than just trade your NFTs or store your NFTs. You need to be on the lookout. Thank you.
So, thank you, Markus, about these insights. Any questions from the audience? Yes, please. The biggest NFT marketplace.
Not marketplace, but like a market. Is it like only collectibles or maybe some other things? So I didn't pay too much attention to NFT lately.
Maybe we can do a little bit of crowdsourcing of information. What's the biggest NFT use case that you see right now? Ticketing? Bigger than art and apes and all that? All right. Yeah, I'd say it's still, well, please. Gaming? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Bigger than apes and just trading stuff? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're basically digital collectibles, right? That then you have Adidas and Porsche and Nike and everybody else coming out with similar digital collectibles. That's probably still the biggest space from a financial perspective right now. Gaming also very important, please.
Currently the volume is still in art and collectibles, but in terms of money, not in terms of transactions, right? I don't know. I haven't followed the panel so far, it's too late, but still I think it's a technology, and at the end it's all fuzzy. Where you start, how you classify it, and what to do with it.
Right, another question?
What is going to dominate, in your opinion, gaming or art?
Well, gaming and art, I think both of these is about trading. And trading is an early adopter that helps new emerging technologies set foot and be adopted. And at the end, there are going to be entirely new business models that maybe we don't even understand today. But gaming or trading is in an early way for people to become associated with it, to learn about it, and for the technology stack and the security procedures to evolve and improve. So I don't know what the future is going to hold. But it's probably not going to be just gaming or art.
Yeah, I also think that different areas will evolve, and in the end, the market will grow bigger and bigger. So NFT market is the fastest rising marketplace at the moment. And yeah, any further questions? Yes, please.
Quick one. I don't want to bore you too long. I know the years go. I have one question. Do you think you were talking about custody? That's very important, especially for a house like yours of a certain size. So do you think it would change
Yeah, I think for most banks or other organizations that want to deploy custody solutions, for them, it's probably I don't think it makes a too big of a difference if the technology provider is regulated. If that's what's your question, right? Because as a custodian, it's at the end of the day, it's you that you are the custodian at the end of the day, because you're just using the tech and you have the keys at the end of the day. So the regulation applies to you and not to the technology provider. I don't know what would help more. Maybe more options from an insurance point of view could help when deploying a technology stack from a third party. Otherwise, I don't think regulation will solve the problem too much.
Yeah, I think we are now already in the overall question section. So if you have any questions to any one of the presenters, so I think feel free. And what I just want to mention is this regulation, so it should help to increase the trust. So you go, whom do you give the money? Do you give the money to a bank as a client, or do you give money to some unknown person? So that's maybe the regulation should help to increase the trust level of the service. Any further questions? Or is the beer already calling? Oh, yes. Sorry, yes, please.
If I may, so you ask, what does it take to promote the perception of real ownership, or to enable people to be their own bank, if you want to take that word, right? And what we see today is that all of the ways that we provide to people to be their own bank or to hold their own assets in their own custody, it's not really good enough yet to go to mass adoption. We deal with seed words, we deal with backups, we deal with the risk that people lose the seed words or the backup, or that if they're afraid of losing it, that they give them away and lose access to the assets anyway. This problem is not solved, and there is no right way out there that we see as a sector to really know what's going to be the solution. And a big part of the solution, likely, as with previous innovations, is for people to become more literate in the technology and in the space that we are, to become more financially literate and technically literate. And then we look back 100 years, the generation back then, they didn't know how to operate washing machines, right? And now they operate Excel sheets and whatever other crazy stuff. But it also got a lot simpler. Operating a car 100 years ago was a lot more complex than operating a car today. So these two trends, the financial literacy of people, technical literacy of people, and also us as technologists being able to provide better solutions are going to help and get us there, but it's going to take time.
Thank you for the question and for the answer. There is another question. Please.
actually it's a combination of all of what you mentioned. The technology and the cryptography that is used in all these systems, in the custody systems, is sort of the foundation that helps you provide the base level security, if you like. But then you need the governance, the processes, the people, the separation of concerns that I mentioned. You need that as well. You cannot solve every problem with technology and with cryptography, right? It just gives you some basic primitives, and then you have to map them into an organization where you have humans, right, that are interacting with the system and need to be educated. This actually comes back to the previous question a little bit. You have this complex technology in cryptography, and you need to make it more consumable for the humans involved in the process, I think. So you need that. You need these things on all levels, right? From the technology and cryptography all the way to the consumability and the user interfaces and the education of the people, I think.
Yeah, I think for us as auditors, we have very different kind of private information, I guess. It's usually about some kind of exploit that we found, right? Like, if we know we can steal $100 million with this knowledge, it's really only interpersonal trust, right? You can't really, like, you can't solve that with technology. You just have to have a trusted network of people that you can discuss it with. And yeah, I guess having like intermediaries with good reputation, right? Like the bug bounty programs, for example, helps a lot to make sure that the information only reaches the right people. But yeah, it's kind of a kind of information that you can't really solve for with technology, I think.
In this case, what means of communication do you use to talk to those people? Because shooting is somehow encrypted, I guess. Don't say what's up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not actually exactly sure what we do use. But whatever the client wants, that's the official answer. There you go.
Okay. Does this answer the question? Okay. Yeah, I think that's now, we have, that's after the last part. I want to still give a big applause to our presenters because they did a cool job. We have this meeting internal in crypto, cybersecurity working group. We do this regularly, so I also want to invite you to join us for specific topics. We are always up to date. We are talking about new stuff. We are talking Bitcoin ordinals. Also, we are talking about hacks, BitTrue hack, and so on. So we are always trying to get up to speed and on the latest status. We are also here for other questions outside. So also apero and networking is also important, and therefore I want to thank you all for participation, for your questions, and I want to wish you a nice evening and a cool beer.